The ballroom shimmered with gold light and expensive perfume. Every guest dripped with diamonds, the air thick with champagne and false compliments. Zara Williams stood near the floral arch she designed herself, her sleek black dress hugging curves that caught more than one appreciative glance. Every detail perfect, every guest exactly where they should be except her heart. It was completely out of place. She whispered to her coworker. It was behind her stood Kong Min-jae, the billionaire host of the event she'd spent weeks perfecting. He was taller than she expected, broad-shouldered, immaculately dressed in a tailored navy suit. His tie loosened just enough to look dangerously effortless. Long black hair fell past his shoulders, framing sharp features and darker eyes that held calm, dangerous amusement. Intricate tattoos peeked from beneath his collar and cuffs, serpentine ink curving around his throat. He leaned in, voice smooth as velvet, low enough for only her to hear, his breath warm against the shell of her ear. "Try me." For a second, Zara forgot how to breathe. Heat flushed up her neck, spreading across her chest. His cologne wrapped around her like temptation, making her dizzy. "I was joking," she stammered. Kong Minji's lips curved into the faintest smirk, so close she could see the dangerous glint in his eyes. "Were you?" His gaze held hers, stripping her bare without touching her. Then he straightened, adjusting his cufflink. "You did a remarkable job tonight. My company owes you our next event." And with that, he walked away, leaving her pulse pounding and her confidence cracked. Her coworker gaped. "Did that billionaire just flirt with you?" Zara's lips parted, but no words came. She could still feel the warmth of his breath, the challenge behind his tone, the way her body had responded. She told herself it was nothing, but deep down she knew she was in trouble. And what he does next will completely change her life. Keep watching because this gets intense. 3 days after the gala, Zara told herself she'd forgotten about Kong Min-jae. She buried herself in work, but his voice kept echoing. The memory haunted her dreams, turning them dark and delicious. When her assistant buzzed through, Zara barely looked up. "Zara, there's a Mr. Kong Min-jae here to see you." The pen slipped from her fingers. Before she could recover, the door opened. Kong Min-jae filled her small office. His dark suit emphasizing broad shoulders, narrow waist. Hair pulled back in a low ponytail revealed the full extent of ink crawling up his neck. Those stormy eyes found hers instantly. "Miss Williams," he greeted, his tone intimate like a secret whispered in the dark. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Zara forced a smile, crossing her legs beneath her desk. Billionaires don't usually make house calls. The question came out breathier than intended. He smiled, setting a folder on her desk, his fingers brushing hers. The contact sent electricity racing up her arm. "My company is hosting an exclusive investors retreat in Jeju Island next month. I want you to plan it." Jeju Island, every planner's dream. "I'm honored," she said carefully. "But I assume your company has preferred vendors. I don't trust anyone else." His gaze dropped to her mouth for a heartbeat. "You have an eye for detail." And he paused. "You speak your mind. I like that. I like watching those lips move when you're telling me exactly what you think." Zara crossed her arms, trying to hide her body's response. "And what's the catch?" "No catch." He leaned forward close enough that she saw muscle flex beneath his shirt. "Except you'd be working closely with me every day, every night if needed, until we leave." The air tightened. Zara swallowed hard, her pulse quickening. "I'll have to check my schedule." "Do that," he said, standing. "But don't take too long. Jeju waits for no one. Neither do I." As he turned to leave, he glanced back. "Oh, and Zara." She looked up, breath caught. "Next time you say rich men don't know how to please a woman." His eyes glinted, raking down her body slowly. "Save that line for Jeju. I might just prove you wrong in every way you can imagine." The door closed and Zara sank into her chair, heart racing, mind spinning. She was about to fall into a game she couldn't control, and part of her didn't want to. If you're already hooked, hit that like button right now. By the time Zara arrived at Kong Minji's company headquarters, she'd built a wall of professionalism. Tight blazer, clipped tone, hair pulled back, sleek. It lasted 5 minutes. He was already in the conference room, his hair loose today, falling like black silk. He wore a simple white shirt, sleeves rolled, revealing tattoos that wrapped around his forearms. "Miss Williams," he said smoothly. "You're early. Someone has to keep this empire running on time." Kong Minji's lips curved. "You're assuming it's not already." Their eyes locked. The room felt too hot. The meeting began, but it was impossible to ignore him. The deep rumble of his voice vibrating through her chest. The way he leaned forward whenever she spoke. Every time their hands brushed, a quiet spark pulsed. Hot, undeniable, dangerous. Halfway through, he stopped mid-sentence. You bite your lip when you're focused, he murmured. Zara froze. Excuse me. He leaned back, eyes burning. Observation, not complaint, though. I'd prefer to be the one biting it. Her pulse stuttered. You really shouldn't say things like that, mister. Calm. He tilted his head. Then stop making them so impossible to ignore. Stop looking at me like you're wondering what I taste like. The silence was electric. When the meeting ended, Kong Min-jae stood, walking until he stood beside her. Close enough, she felt heat radiating from him. You're brilliant, Zara. But you don't have to fight me so hard. I'm not fighting. I'm working. Is that what you call it? Because your body is telling me something different. The way you clench your thighs when I get close. The way your breath catches. Her face burned. Jeju is less than 2 weeks away. I expect you at dinner tonight. Strictly business, he said, though his eyes lingered on her neck, the curve of her breasts. As he walked out, Zara exhaled. This wasn't just business. It was dangerous. The tension between them is about to explode. Don't click away now. The night sky stretched beyond the jet windows. Zara sat rigid, clutching her tablet. Kong Min-jae looked unfairly composed, dark slacks hugging his thighs, open collar revealing tattoo edges. Even at 30,000 feet, he exuded control. Dominance. Are you always this tense on planes? He asked. I'm not tense, just focused. You've read the same page for 10 minutes, and you keep crossing and uncrossing your legs. Before she could reply, the plane jolted. Her tablet slipped. Without thinking, Kong Min-jae pulled her toward him. She was pressed against his chest. Solid warmth, hard muscle. The turbulence rattled and his arm tightened, his other hand splaying across her lower back. You're okay, he murmured near her ear. I've got you. She felt his breath, hot and deliberate. His hair fell forward, brushing her shoulder. His thumb stroked her back in slow circles. You can let go now, she whispered, though she didn't move. Can I? His lips were so close to her throat. When the plane steadied, he released her slowly, his fingers brushing her wrist where her pulse hammered. You don't like giving up control, do you? I don't like being someone's weakness. He studied her, tucking hair behind his ear. Maybe strength isn't about control, Zara. Maybe it's about who you trust enough to lose it with, who you trust enough to let take you apart. Her breath hitched. No man had ever spoken like that, with depth, with promise. She turned to the window, heart racing, but she could still feel him watching. Feel the ghost of his hands. Wait until you see what happens next, because everything is about to change. Stay with me. Jeju Island shimmered beneath golden light. From her balcony, Zara stared at volcanic landscape and endless sea. Behind her, a knock sounded. Kong Min-jae stood in the doorway. No suit jacket, just a white shirt unbuttoned at the collar, revealing ink, hair loose, falling past his shoulders. You skipped dinner, he said softly. I wasn't hungry. A lie. He stepped closer. Then why does your voice shake like you're starving? His eyes dropped to her mouth, then lower, lingering on the rapid rise and fall of her chest. You shouldn't say things like that. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm doing more than flirting. Maybe I'm imagining what you look like when you come. Silence filled the space. Thick charged. Come with me, he said suddenly, extending his hand. No business. Just Jeju. Just us. Against every rule, Zara took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, pulling her close for a second. Close enough she felt hard planes against her softness. He led her through narrow streets to a small traditional restaurant. They shared soju and laughter, talking about dreams and secrets. But underneath was a current, dark and thrilling. I used to think money could fix everything, Kong Min-jae said, eyes tracing her lips, her throat. But it can't buy peace or connection or the way you look at me right now. Like you want to devour me as much as I want to devour you. I'm not looking at you in any way. Then maybe I'm the one imagining what your skin tastes like. What sounds you make when someone touches you the way you need. The walk back was torture, their hands brushing. Each touch traveled straight to her core. At her door, Zara turned, chest height, body aching. Good night, Kong Min-jae. He leaned in, lips almost touching her ear. You make good night sound like a promise, like an invitation. For a moment, she thought he'd kiss her. Instead, his thumb traced her bottom lip slowly, pulling it down. She gasped, and his pupils dilated. He simply looked at her, his thumb still on her lip. Then he walked away. That restraint felt more dangerous than any touch. The next evening, Jeju hummed outside. Inside her suite, her thoughts were louder. Every moment replayed. She'd showered, but it only made it worse. Now she stood in just a silk robe, skin damp, curls loose and wild. She was pouring wine when a knock came. Kong Min-jae stood there, eyes darker than night, wild and hungry, hair tied back loosely. He looked at her, taking in the robe, her bare legs, wet hair. His jaw clenched. "You've been avoiding me." "I've been working," she replied, clutching the robe closed. He stepped inside, closing the door, never taking his eyes off her. "That's not what I asked. You're my client. This complicates things." He moved closer, slow, predatory, stopping just short of touching her. She felt heat radiating. "Everything about you complicates me." "I shouldn't feel them," he said, voice raw. "But I do. I feel everything. I feel how much I want you. How much I need to touch you. How much I'm dying to know if you're as soft as you look." For a moment, she saw through the armor. Powerful billionaire stripped to something human, desperate. "Since that night at the gala, I can't stop thinking about you. The way you make me feel like I'm not just money in headlines. The way I imagine you beneath me, saying my name. You don't even know me. Then tell me who you are. I want to know every reason you look away when I get too close. Every fantasy you've had about me, because I know you have them. I can see it in your eyes." Tears pricked her eyes. "I'm not someone people choose. I'm the one they forget." He reached out, brushing a tear away, then brought his thumb to his lips, tasting it. His eyes closed. "Then let me be the one who remembers. Let me be the one who makes you forget everyone before me." The air crackled. Her robe had loosened, revealing more skin. His eyes dropped, darkening. Zara didn't step back. Instead, she leaned forward just an inch. "This is the moment everything shifts. Drop a comment if you're feeling this." His control snapped. His hand slid into her hair, tilting her head back, mouth crashing against hers. Not gentle, hungry, claiming desperate. She gasped and he took advantage, tongue sliding against hers, tasting, devouring, her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. He walked her backward until her back hit the wall, his body pressing against hers, letting her feel exactly what she did to him. His other hand slid down her side over silk, gripping her hip, her thigh, lifting her leg around his waist. She moaned, and he groaned in response, the sound vibrating through her. His lips left hers to trail down her jaw, her neck, finding that spot that made her gasp, sucking, biting gently, marking her. "Kong Min-jae," she breathed, hands tangling in his hair. "Say it again," he demanded against her skin, hands sliding higher on her thigh. Discovering she wore nothing beneath, he pulled back to look at her, eyes black with desire. "Say my name again." "Kong Min-jae," she whispered, and he captured her mouth again. This kiss slower but deeper, memorizing the taste of her. When he pulled away, they were both breathing hard, her lips swollen, his hair disheveled. He rested his forehead against hers, thumb stroking her cheek. "I should go," he said, though he made no move. "I should make you," she replied, legs still wrapped around him. He smiled against her lips, pressing one more soft kiss. Tomorrow, I won't stop. But tonight, I want you to think about this, about me, about what's going to happen when I finally have you." And then, with restraint that seemed impossible, he unwrapped her leg, stepped back, walked to the door. He paused, looking back at her against the wall. "Sweet dreams, Zara. I know I won't be having any." Morning sunlight poured through. Kong Min-jae was gone, leaving only a scent on her pillow, the memory of his mouth, and a note. "You make Jeju feel real. Tonight, I'm going to make you feel everything. Don't disappear." Her body flushed, remembering, but by noon, her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. She opened one and froze. A photo, Kong Min-jae and her, his hand in her hair, her leg wrapped around him, pressed against a wall. The headline screamed, "Korean billionaire Kong Min-jae's new flame. Event planner scandal." Her stomach dropped. Cancelled contracts filled her email. Whispered judgments to them. She was sleeping her way up. When Kong Min-jae found her in the lobby, cameras flashed outside. He strode in confident, protective, dangerous, hair pulled back, jaw tight. Come with me. In his penthouse, she turned on him. You don't understand. My reputation is all I have. They'll think they can think whatever they want. I'll make a statement. I'll tell them you're with me, that you're mine. Zara shook her head, curls bouncing. That only proves them right. You can buy silence, but I can't buy my name back. The words cut through him. Finally, Zara whispered, I need space, please. He hesitated, nodded once. If that's what you want. When he left, Zara sank to the floor, clutching her phone as flashes lit the streets. For the first time, the silence felt empty. Though she'd walked away to save her name, her heart stayed where he'd left it, along with her body's memory of his touch. If this broke your heart, keep watching because the story isn't over. 2 weeks since Jeju, since Kong Min-jae, since that kiss that haunted her dreams and made her wake aching. Zara buried herself in work. Her name had slipped from tabloids, but not whispers. Every time her phone lit, her heart jumped. Her body responded. It never was him. She told herself she was fine. But every night, she replayed his voice. You don't have to fight me so hard. And other things. The way he groaned when she pulled his hair, how his hands had felt. Until one evening, a knock came. When she opened it, he was there, eyes tired, but burning, hair loose, falling in dark waves, almost vulnerable, but something else in his eyes. Determination, hunger. Kong Min-jae, she whispered, breath catching, body remembering. Zara, you look exhausted. That's what happens when you're rebuilding your life. He nodded. I tried to fix it. Called in favors. I didn't want your money or power. I just wanted my peace. And what about me? What about what we started? You don't get to ask that. You'll move on. Do you really think that's what I want? You think I've slept since Jeju? You think I haven't thought about that night every second? She blinked, caught off guard by the rawness. He ran a hand through his hair. I've built empires, Zara, but you're the only thing I can't control. The only thing that makes everything meaningless. You're the only thing I dream about. The only thing I want. Her heart pounded, defenses crumbling, body leaning toward him. Why are you here? Because I can't lose you. Taught me what love feels like, what wanting feels like, what needing someone so badly it hurts feels like. Don't punish me for learning too late. Tears burned. I need time. Then I'll wait. Forever if that's what you need. But know this. He stepped closer, chest against her back, lips near her ear. You're mine, Zara. You've been mine since that night, and I'm yours completely. Then he left, and the air felt colder. What he sacrificed for her will bring you to tears. Keep watching. Days passed. Zara threw herself into work, but she couldn't ignore the ache between her legs, no matter how many cold showers until she saw headlines. Kong Min-jae's company under fire. CEO refuses multi-billion deal over scandal. Chooses love over money. Kong Min-jae had been negotiating a merger with a Chinese firm that publicly mocked her. The same firm that ruined her reputation, and he'd walked away for her. Phone rang. Park Jin-woo, Kong Min-jae's best friend. Zara, he did it for you. They wanted him to denounce you publicly. He told them to go to hell. Said you were the best thing that ever happened to him. He wanted to said he'd rather lose money than lose you. That you were worth more than everyone in his account. That night, Zara couldn't think. Every reason to stay away crumbled. By morning, she was outside his building, heart racing, body humming. When Kong Min-jae stepped out, he looked surprised. Hair tied messily, sleeves rolled, exhausted, but beautiful. Zara, why would you do that? You lost billions because of me. It's just money. You're the only thing I couldn't replace. The only thing I need. You didn't have to prove anything. Yes, I did. You thought I wanted to protect your image. I didn't. I wanted to protect your heart. I wanted to prove I choose you always. And what if I'm still scared? Then I'll keep showing you until you're not. Then Zara took one step forward, closing the distance. I don't need the world to believe in us. I just need you to mean it. His hand found hers, fingers threading. I've never meant anything more, and I've never wanted anything more than I want you right now. Her breath hitched at the double meaning. If you believe in this kind of love, show it by liking this video. Rain drizzled over Seoul, painting Kong Min-jae's penthouse silver. Zara stood by the window. The chaos had quieted. Just her, the man who changed everything, and silence that felt like peace. But underneath was something else. Anticipation. Kong Min-jae stepped in, footsteps slow. He wasn't in a suit, just a dark sweater clinging to his frame. Sleeves pushed up, hair loose, eyes softer, but darker, hungrier. You didn't have to come back. I didn't plan to, but you left me no choice. You kept showing up. You sacrificed everything. I wasn't showing up for forgiveness. I was showing up for you because you're mine. She walked closer. When I said rich men don't know how to please a woman, I wasn't just talking about the bedroom. I meant they don't listen. They don't see us. But you saw me when I didn't even see myself. You made me feel things I didn't think I could feel. And you taught me that love isn't control, it's surrender. I don't want to own you, Zara. I want to earn you every day. I want to worship you. His hand cupped her face. Then, with reverent motion, he reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box to catching light. Then promise me one thing. Never stop laughing like you did that night. The one that changed everything. And never stop being mine. She laughed through tears, stepping into his arms. Careful what you wish for, mister, and when he kissed her, it wasn't gentle. It was deep, claiming, full of promise. His hands slid down, gripping her, lifting her. Legs wrapped around his waist as he carried her toward the bedroom. Tonight, he murmured against her lips. I'm going to show you exactly how well I can please a woman. And as he laid her on his bed, his body covering hers, hands already working at her clothes, Zara realized every moment of pain had been worth it. Because this man didn't just love her, he worshipped her. If this story touched your soul and made you believe in real love again, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another emotional journey like this. Second, drop a comment below and tell me which moment had you holding your breath. Was it the turbulence scene, the first kiss against the wall, or that final promise? I read every single comment, and your words inspire these stories. And third, smash that like button to support this channel and help us reach more people who need to hear stories about real, passionate, unshakable love. Thank you so much for being here and sharing this journey with me. I'll see you in the next story, and trust me, it's going to be just as unforgettable. 6 months later, Zara stood in the bridal suite of Seoul's most exclusive hotel, staring at her reflection in ivory silk. Her wedding dress was a masterpiece, custom designed by Korea's top designer, but her hands trembled as she adjusted the delicate lace sleeves. Today was supposed to be perfect. Today was supposed to be the beginning of forever with Kang Min-jae. Instead, it felt like the end of everything she'd worked for. The event planning industry had turned its back on her completely. No one would hire the woman who slept her way to the top, who stole Korea's most eligible bachelor. The whispers followed her everywhere. Gold digger, home wrecker, opportunist. Even though she'd built her career long before she met him, even though she'd walked away from him to protect her reputation, none of it mattered. The narrative had been written, and she was the villain in everyone else's story. A soft knock interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Come in, she called, expecting her assistant or makeup artist. Instead, an elegant woman in her 60s entered, wearing Chanel and disapproval in equal measure. Mrs. Kang, Minji's mother. The woman who'd made it clear that Zara would never be good enough for her son. Mrs. Kang closed the door behind her, her sharp eyes taking in every detail of Zara's appearance. You look beautiful, she said, her voice carrying no warmth. Almost beautiful enough to make me forget what you really are. Zara's spine straightened. I'm sorry you feel that way. I had hoped we could find common ground. Common ground. Mrs. Kang laughed, the sound like breaking glass. My dear, you're marrying into one of Korea's most powerful families. Do you really think love is enough? Do you think my son's infatuation with you will survive what's coming? Zara felt ice creeping up her spine. What do you mean? Mrs. Kang moved closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Our family has enemies, Miss Williams. Dangerous ones. Men who would use any weakness against us. And you, with your foreign background, your lack of connections, your tainted reputation, you are the ultimate weakness. The door burst open before Zara could respond. Kang Min-jae strode in, his tuxedo perfectly tailored, his face thunderous. He took one look at his mother's positioning near Zara, and his jaw clenched. Mother, you shouldn't be here. It's bad luck to see the bride before the ceremony. Mrs. Kang smiled coldly. I was just welcoming our new daughter into the family, explaining some of our traditions. His eyes flicked to Zara, searching her face. Are you all right? Zara forced a smile. Of course. Your mother was just being protective. Mrs. Kang's smile widened. Exactly. Very protective. She kissed her son's cheek and whispered something in Korean, that made his face go pale. Then she left, her heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown. Min-jae turned to Zara immediately, his hands cupping her face. Whatever she said to you, ignore it. Today is about us. Nothing else matters. But Zara could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes kept darting to the door. What did she tell you? In Korean. He hesitated, and that hesitation told her everything. She said the wedding is being watched, that there are people who might try to disrupt it. Security concerns. Zara's heart sank. She didn't want to know what kind of security concerns required that level of worry. What kind of family was she really marrying into? The wedding ceremony was a fairy tale wrapped in a nightmare. 500 guests filled the cathedral, Korea's elite watching with calculating eyes as Zara walked down the aisle. She could feel their judgment, like physical weight pressing down on her shoulders. Some smiled politely, but she caught the whispered conversations, the pointed looks, the way conversations stopped when she passed. Only Park Jin-woo seemed genuinely happy for them, his smile wide and supportive as he stood beside Min-jae at the altar. But even he looked nervous, his eyes constantly scanning the crowd. When Zara reached the altar, Min-jae took her hands, and everything else faded away. His love was real, blazing in his dark eyes as he spoke his vows in both Korean and English. I promise to protect you from every storm, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. To love you through every season. To choose you every day for the rest of my life. Zara's voice caught as she replied, I promise to stand beside you, no matter what comes. To trust you when trust is hard. To love you even when the world tells me not to. When they kissed, sealing their marriage, the applause was polite but restrained. And Zara couldn't shake the feeling that they'd just declared war on an entire country. The reception was held in Min-jae's family estate, a sprawling mansion that had housed generations of Korea's business elite. Zara moved through the crowd like a ghost, smiling and nodding as guests offered congratulations that felt more like condolences. The conversations were stilted, full of backhanded compliments and thinly veiled curiosity. Mrs. Kong must be so proud, one woman said with a simpering smile. Such an interesting choice for Min-jae. So modern. Another guest, a prominent businessman, cornered her near the champagne fountain. Miss Williams, I understand you're in event planning. Such a competitive field. I imagine it's difficult to find clients these days. The words stung because they were true. Her business had collapsed almost overnight after the scandal broke. 3 years of building relationships, establishing trust, creating a reputation for excellence, all destroyed by a few photographs and malicious gossip. Min-jae appeared at her side like a guardian angel, his hand warm on her lower back. Mr. Shin, he said pleasantly, his voice carrying an edge that made the older man step back. I trust you're enjoying the celebration. The man mumbled something about congratulations and fled. Min-jae turned to Zara, concern creasing his brow. You look exhausted. Want to escape for a few minutes? She nodded gratefully, and he led her through French doors onto a moonlit terrace. The November air was crisp against her skin, but Min-jae's arms around her waist kept her warm. I'm sorry, he said quietly. This isn't how I wanted our wedding day to feel. Zara leaned back against his chest. It's not your fault. I knew what I was signing up for when I said yes. Did you? He asked, and something in his voice made her turn in his arms. His face was shadowed, troubled. Zara, there are things about my family, about our business, that I've never told you. Things I wanted to protect you from. Her stomach dropped. What kind of things? He was quiet for a long moment, his fingers tracing patterns on her bare arms. My father didn't just build his empire through legitimate means. There were compromises, deals with people who operate outside the law, enemies who would do anything to bring us down. And now you're part of that world whether you want to be or not. Before she could respond, Park Jin-woo appeared in the doorway, his face grim. Min-jae, we need to talk. Now. The urgency in his voice made both of them freeze. What's wrong? Min-jae asked, immediately shifting into business mode. Jinwoo's eyes flicked to Zara nervously. It's family business. Min-jae's arm tightened around his wife. She is family now. Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of her. Jinwoo looked uncomfortable but nodded. The Yamamoto group is here. 3 of them, dressed as guests. Security spotted them 10 minutes ago. Zara felt Min-jae go rigid beside her. The Yamamoto group, she'd gathered from context, was bad news. Very bad news. Are they armed? Min-jae asked, his voice deadly calm. Unknown. They passed through our screening, but that doesn't mean anything. These people are professionals. Min-jae was already moving, pulling Zara toward the door. We're leaving. Now. But we can't just leave our own wedding reception, Zara protested. Minji's eyes were black with something she'd never seen before. Something that scared her. Yes, we can. Because the alternative is explaining to your family why their daughter died on what should have been the happiest day of her life. The drive to their honeymoon suite was tense and silent. Minji's jaw was locked, his knuckles white on the steering wheel as he navigated Seoul's late-night traffic. 2 black SUVs followed them, part of the security detail that Zara was only now realizing had been there all along. How long has this been going on? She asked quietly. The threats, the danger, all of it. Minji's hands tightened on the wheel. My whole life. My father made enemies when he was building the company. Some of those enemies have very long memories. But it's gotten worse since we got engaged. Since you became a target. The word hit her like a physical blow. Target. She was a target now, simply because she'd fallen in love with the wrong man. Or maybe the right man in a wrong world. I should have told you earlier, Min-jae continued, his voice rough with guilt. Should have given you the chance to walk away before it was too late. Zara reached across the console to cover his hand with hers. It's not too late. We can figure this out together. But even as she said the words, she wondered if she was being naive. How did you figure out a life where every day might be your last? How did you build a future when the past kept trying to destroy it? Their honeymoon suite was a fortress disguised as luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered stunning views of Seoul's skyline. But Zara noticed the bulletproof glass, the reinforced locks, the security cameras positioned at every angle. Min-jae poured himself 3 fingers of whiskey and downed it in one gulp. His wedding tuxedo now looking like armor he couldn't wait to shed. This isn't how I wanted to spend our wedding night, he said, loosening his tie with sharp, frustrated movements. Zara moved toward him slowly, her wedding dress rustling against the marble floor. Then let's not spend it this way. Let's pretend, just for tonight, that we're normal people who fell in love and got married. Let's pretend the world outside doesn't exist. He looked at her with such longing that her heart ached. You're extraordinary, you know that. Any other woman would have run screaming by now. Any other woman wouldn't have fallen in love with you. She reached up to finish loosening his tie, her fingers working the silk free. I knew you were dangerous the moment I met you. I just didn't know what kind of dangerous. The good kind or the bad kind. Both, he said, catching her hands in his. Definitely both. When he kissed her, it was with a desperation that spoke of stolen time, of uncertain tomorrows. His hands tangled in her hair, careful not to disturb the intricate wedding styling, but possessive enough to leave no doubt about his feelings. She's mine, his touch said. No matter what comes, she's mine. They made love that night with a passion edged with grief, knowing that their honeymoon might be the last peace they'd have for a long time. In the pre-dawn darkness, as Zara lay against Minji's chest listening to his heartbeat, she made a decision. Whatever this life brought, whatever dangers lurked in the shadows of his world, she would face them. She would not be the woman who ran when things got difficult. She would not be the weakness that brought him down. If being married to Kang Min-jae meant becoming someone stronger, someone fiercer, someone willing to fight for love, then that's who she would become. She just hoped she was strong enough for what was coming. The first sign that their honeymoon was over came 3 days later. Zara was reviewing wedding photos on her laptop when Min-jae burst through the door of their suite, his face grim, Park Jin-woo right behind him. We need to go, Min-jae said without preamble. Pack light, pack fast. What's happened? Zara asked, already moving toward the bedroom. Jin-woo answered, his voice tight with anger. Someone leaked our location. Paparazzi found the hotel an hour ago. And they're not alone. Zara's blood went cold. The Yamamoto group. Worse, Min-jae said, grabbing their passports from the safe. 3 different organizations, all with reasons to want me dead. And now they know exactly where we are. The drive to the airport was like something out of an action movie. Their security team took different routes, using decoy cars and coordinated timing to confuse potential attackers. Zara found herself crouched in the back seat of an armored sedan, her honeymoon clothes replaced with jeans and a bulletproof vest that felt surreal against her skin. This is insane, she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. Minji's hand found hers in the darkness. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for bringing you into this. But as scared as she was, as surreal as the situation felt, Zara realized something unexpected. She wasn't angry with him. She was angry for him. Angry that he'd lived his entire life under this shadow. Angry that loving her had put them both in more danger. Angry that they couldn't just be happy without the world trying to tear them apart. Their escape took them to a private compound in Jeju Island, far from Seoul's dangers, but close enough for Min-jae to conduct business remotely. The house was beautiful, perched on cliffs overlooking the ocean, but it was also a prison. Security guards patrolled the perimeter, and Zara quickly learned that she couldn't leave without an escort. Her new life was guided, controlled, protected, safe, and slowly suffocating. The isolation gave her too much time to think, to research, to discover things about her husband's family that made her stomach turn. Late at night, while Min-jae worked on damage control from his study, Zara found herself diving deep into Korean business news, following threads that led to darker and darker places. The Kang family's empire wasn't just built on smart investments and good timing. There were rumors of money laundering, of connections to organized crime, of politicians bought and sold like commodities. Her husband's hands weren't clean, and she was beginning to understand that they never could be. The confrontation came on a rainy Thursday evening. Zara had spent the day reading about a suspicious land deal from 5 years ago, one that had displaced hundreds of families to make way for one of Minji's luxury developments. When he came to bed that night, exhausted from another day of crisis management, she was waiting for him with printouts spread across the comforter. "What's all this?" he asked, his voice already wary. "The truth," she said simply. "About your family. About your business. About what I've actually married into." Minji's face went carefully blank. The expression she was learning meant he was retreating behind walls she couldn't breach. "That's ancient history, Zara. Business decisions made long before we met. Does it matter now? It matters because people lost their homes. Because families were destroyed to build your empire. Because every dollar you've spent on me, every gift you've given me, every luxury I've enjoyed, might be built on other people's suffering." The words hung between them like a blade. Min-jae sat heavily on the edge of the bed, his shoulders sagging under the weight of secrets he'd carried for too long. "You're right," he said quietly. "Some of it is true. My father made choices I wouldn't have made, did things I'm not proud of. But the company is different now. I've been working to change things, to make amends. But the damage is done, isn't it?" Zara said. "The families who lost their homes can't get them back. The communities that were displaced can't be rebuilt. And I'm part of it now, whether I want to be or not." Min-jae reached for her, but she pulled back, and the pain that flashed across his face was almost unbearable. "Zara, please. I never wanted this for you. I tried to keep you separate from the business, to protect you. But I can't change who I am or where I come from. I can only try to be better." "Is that enough?" she asked, and the question broke both their hearts. Because she loved him, desperately and completely, but she couldn't reconcile the man who made love to her with tender reverence with the legacy of cruelty he'd inherited. How do you move forward when the foundation of everything you've built is rotten? How do you create a clean future from a dirty past? That night, they lay in bed inches apart, but feeling like strangers. The rain pounded against the windows like accusations, and Zara wondered if love was really enough to overcome the weight of history. By morning, she had her answer. It wasn't. The breaking point came during a video call with her parents in Chicago. They'd been supportive of her marriage, proud of her success, excited to welcome Min-jae into the family. But as Zara sat in the compound study, looking at their concerned faces on her laptop screen, she realized how much her world had shrunk. "Honey, you look tired," her mother said, leaning closer to the camera. "Are you eating enough? Are you happy?" The simple question shattered something inside Zara. Was she happy? She was in love, desperately so. She was married to a man who would move heaven and earth for her. She had financial security, beautiful homes, access to a world most people could only dream of. But happy? When was the last time she'd laughed freely, gone anywhere alone, made a decision without considering the security implications? When was the last time she'd felt like herself instead of like Kang Minji's wife? A title that was both a blessing and a cage. "I'm fine," she lied, forcing a smile. just adjusting to married life. You know how it is. Her father, always perceptive, frowned. Zara, if something's wrong, you can tell us. We're your family. We're here for you no matter what. The words nearly broke her composure. Family. She'd married into a family, but she'd also married away from hers. The Kangs would never accept her, not really. She would always be the outsider, the foreign influence, the weakness in their armor. And her own family was thousands of miles away, worried about her, but powerless to help. After the call ended, Zara sat in the gathering darkness and made a decision that would change everything. She couldn't do this. She couldn't be the person this life required her to be. She couldn't smile and pretend that everything was fine while people suffered for her comfort. She couldn't live in a golden cage, no matter how much she loved the man who'd built it for her. When Min-jae found her packing that night, his face went white. Where are you going? Home, she said simply, not looking up from the suitcase. To Chicago. To my family. To my life. His voice was carefully controlled, but she could hear the panic underneath. This is your life now. We're married. You can't just leave. She turned to face him, and he stepped back at whatever he saw in her eyes. Watch me. I can't do this, Min-jae. I can't be the kind of person who looks the other way while people get hurt. I can't live in fear every day, wondering if today is the day someone decides to use me against you. I can't pretend that love is enough to overcome everything else. But what about us? He asked, his voice breaking. What about what we have together? What we have is beautiful, she said, tears starting to fall. It's the most beautiful thing that's ever happened to me. But it's not enough. Not when it costs this much. Not when staying with you means losing myself completely. He moved toward her, desperation written across his features. I'll change. I'll get out of the business, walk away from everything. We can start over somewhere else, just the two of us. And you'd hate me for it, she said sadly. You'd hate me for making you choose, for forcing you to abandon your family, your heritage, everything you've worked to build. And I'd hate myself for asking you to. This is who you are, Min-jae. This is your world. And I don't belong in it. The goodbye was brutal. Min-jae didn't try to stop her physically, but his words were desperate attempts to change her mind. He promised security, safety, a different kind of life. He promised to clean up the business completely, to donate money to the families they'd wronged, to use his power only for good. But they both knew it was too late for promises. The damage was done, not just to others but to them. Trust, once broken, couldn't be rebuilt with words alone. At the airport, surrounded by security guards who now felt like jailers, Zara turned to look at her husband one last time. He stood ramrod straight, his face a mask of composure, but his eyes were devastating. I love you, she said, the words ripping her heart out. That will never change. No matter what happens, no matter how much time passes, I will always love you. I love you too, he replied, his voice steady despite everything. Enough to let you go if that's what you need. But this isn't over, Zara. This will never be over. She wanted to say something comforting, something that would ease the pain in his eyes, but there was nothing. Sometimes love wasn't enough. Sometimes the bravest thing you could do was walk away from everything you wanted in order to become who you needed to be. The flight to Chicago felt endless. Zara sat in first class, surrounded by luxury that now felt like mockery, and tried to imagine what her life would look like without him. She'd have to rebuild everything. Her career, her reputation, her sense of self. She'd have to learn how to be just Zara Williams again instead of Mrs. Kang Min-jae. But for the first time in months, she could breathe freely. She could make decisions without weighing security concerns. She could go where she wanted, when she wanted, without an escort. The freedom was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. Her phone buzzed constantly with calls and messages from Min-jae, but she couldn't bring herself to answer. What was there to say? That she missed him already. That leaving him felt like tearing out her own heart. That she wished things could be different. He knew all of that. They both did. And it didn't change anything. Landing in Chicago felt like traveling back in time. Her parents' suburban house, with its familiar sounds and smells, felt like a sanctuary after months of living in fortresses. Her mother held her while she cried, not asking questions, just offering comfort. Her father made coffee and sat quietly nearby, his presence steady and reassuring. For 3 days, she didn't leave the house. She slept in her childhood bedroom, ate her mother's cooking, and tried to remember who she'd been before Kang Min-jae had turned her world upside down. On the fourth day, she started planning her comeback. If she was going to rebuild her life, she was going to do it right. No shortcuts, no compromises, no connections based on who she'd married. She would start from the ground up and build something that was entirely her own. It would take time, probably years. It would be hard work, harder than anything she'd ever done. But it would be clean. It would be honest. It would be hers. The weeks turned into months, and slowly, painfully, Zara began to heal. She started her own event planning company, focusing on nonprofit organizations and community events. The work was meaningful, the pay was modest, but every dollar she earned was clean money. She wasn't Kang Min-jae's wife anymore. She wasn't anyone's wife. She was just Zara Williams, small business owner, community volunteer, daughter, and friend. It should have been enough. Most days it was. But late at night, when the apartment was quiet and she was alone with her thoughts, she missed him with an intensity that took her breath away. She missed his laugh, his touch, the way he looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. She missed the life they could have had if things had been different. If he'd been different. If she'd been different. The divorce papers came 6 months after she'd left. Clean, simple, generous to a fault. He'd given her everything, asked for nothing in return except her signature on the documents that would set them both free. She signed them in her lawyer's office, her hand steady despite the tears streaming down her face. It was the right thing to do. It was the only thing to do. But it felt like signing her own death warrant. A year after leaving Seoul, Zara received an unexpected package. Inside was a single newspaper clipping, no return address, no note. The headline read, Kang Enterprises announces major restructuring, commits to ethical business practices. The article detailed massive changes to Min-jae's company, including a victim compensation fund for families affected by past business decisions, new oversight committees, and a complete audit of all business partnerships. At the bottom of the article was a quote from Min-jae, "We cannot change the past, but we have a responsibility to do better. Some wounds take generations to heal, but healing must begin somewhere. Let it begin with us." Zara read the article 3 times, her heart aching with pride and loss in equal measure. He'd done it. He'd actually done what they'd both thought was impossible. He'd changed everything, cleaned house, rebuilt his legacy from the ground up. And he'd done it without her, because of her, in spite of her. The sacrifice was beautiful and heartbreaking, and too late all at once. 2 years after the divorce was finalized, Zara's company had grown into something remarkable. She'd organized charity galas that raised millions for homeless shelters, planned community festivals that brought neighborhoods together, coordinated disaster relief efforts that saved lives. Her reputation was spotless, her conscience clear, her bank account modest but honest. She was proud of what she'd built, proud of who she'd become. But success felt hollow without someone to share it with. She'd dated, tried to move on, but every man she met was measured against a standard they couldn't possibly reach. How do you fall in love with someone ordinary after you've been loved by someone extraordinary? How do you settle for safe when you've tasted dangerous? How do you accept good enough when you've had everything? The call came on a Tuesday evening in December. Zara was working late in her office, reviewing contracts for a New Year's Eve fundraiser, when her assistant buzzed through. "There's someone here to see you." Says his name is Park Jin-woo. Zara's pen clattered to the floor. Jin-woo. Here. In Chicago. Her heart hammered as she told her assistant to send him in. When the door opened and Min-jae's former best friend stepped through, Zara was shocked by how much he'd aged. The easygoing smile was gone, replaced by lines of worry and exhaustion. "Jin-woo," she said carefully. "This is unexpected." He shifted uncomfortably in the doorway. "I wasn't sure if you'd see me. I wasn't sure if I should come at all. But I promised him I'd try." "Promised who?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Min-jae. He wanted me to tell you something. In person. Because he didn't trust that you'd read a letter or take a phone call." Jin-woo moved closer, his expression earnest. "He's sick, Zara. Cancer. Stage 3. The doctors caught it 6 months ago, but he refused treatment at first. Said he had work to finish, amends to make. He's been trying to clean up every mess the company ever made, help every family that was hurt, right every wrong. He's killing himself trying to fix everything before." Zara's world tilted. Cancer. Min-jae was sick, maybe dying, and he'd been facing it alone. Why are you telling me this? Because he loves you, Jinwoo said simply. Because even after everything, even after you left, even after the divorce, he loves you. And I think, maybe, you love him too. Otherwise, you wouldn't have looked like someone punched you in the stomach when I said his name. Tears burned Zara's eyes. Of course I love him. I'll always love him. But that doesn't change anything. It doesn't fix the problems that broke us up in the first place. Actually, Jinwoo said, pulling out a thick folder, it might. He's changed everything, Zara. Everything. The business, the partnerships, the family dynamics. He spent the last 3 years tearing down everything his father built and rebuilding it the right way. Clean money, ethical practices, transparent operations. He's bankrupted himself multiple times doing it, had to sell properties, liquidate investments, take loans just to keep operating while he implemented new systems. But he did it. He actually did it. Jinwoo opened the folder and spread documents across her desk. Financial statements, charity records, testimonials from families who'd received compensation, letters from community leaders praising the company's new direction. The evidence was overwhelming. Min-jae had kept his word, had done everything he'd promised and more. He'd sacrificed his fortune, his social standing, his health, everything, to build something worthy of her love. Why didn't he tell me? Zara whispered, staring at the papers through tears. Because he wanted to finish first, Jinwoo explained. He wanted to prove to you, and to himself, that he could be the man you needed him to be. But the cancer, it's moved faster than expected. He's running out of time, Zara. And he's running out of reasons to fight. The doctors say he needs something to live for, something worth fighting for. I think that something is you. Zara closed her eyes, her heart breaking and mending simultaneously. All this time, while she'd been building her new life, he'd been tearing down his old one and rebuilding it in her image. While she'd been learning to live without him, he'd been becoming the man she'd always known he could be. The irony was devastating and beautiful and exactly like the universe's sense of humor. Can I see him? She asked quietly. Jinwoo's face brightened with hope. He's in Seoul, at the cancer center. He doesn't know I'm here, doesn't know I'm asking you this. If you come, it has to be because you wanna, not because you feel sorry for him. He'd hate that. I don't feel sorry for him, Zara said, already reaching for her phone to check flights. I feel proud of him, and terrified, and angry that he waited so long to tell me, and grateful that he tried it all. Jinwoo smiled for the first time since he'd arrived. He was right about you. He always said you were the strongest person he knew, the bravest. Strong enough to leave when you had to. Maybe strong enough to come back when it matters. The flight to Seoul was the longest 14 hours of Zara's life. She stared out the window at clouds and ocean, trying to prepare herself for what she might find. Cancer changed people, sometimes beyond recognition. What if Min-jae wasn't the man she remembered? What if 3 years in illness had turned him into a stranger? What if she'd waited too long, come back too late? What if he didn't want to see her after all? But underneath the fear was something stronger. Hope. Desperate, terrifying, irrational hope. Maybe they could have a second chance. Maybe love really was enough, if it was built on the right foundation this time. Maybe the pain of the last 3 years had been necessary, had taught them both what they needed to learn about sacrifice and forgiveness, and fighting for what mattered most. The Seoul skyline looked different when they landed, somehow both familiar and strange. The city had grown, changed, evolved in her absence. She wondered if she had too. If they both had. If they could meet each other as new people, wiser people, people who understood the cost of love and were willing to pay it. The cancer center was beautiful in the way only Korean architecture could be, all clean lines and natural light, designed to inspire hope. Zara stood outside Minji's room for 10 minutes, gathering courage, before finally knocking. Come in, his voice called, and her heart stopped. He sounded tired, older, but undeniably him. She opened the door and found him sitting by the window, reading. He'd lost weight, his sharp cheekbones more prominent, his hair shorter than she remembered. But when he looked up and saw her, his face transformed with such joy that she nearly fell to her knees. Zara, he breathed, setting the book aside. You came. I wasn't sure. Jinwoo said you might. She moved closer slowly, drinking in the sight of him. You look good, she said, which wasn't entirely true but wasn't entirely false either. The illness had aged him, but there was something lighter about him too, as if laying down the weight of his family's sins had freed him in ways that went beyond business. "You look beautiful," he replied, his eyes never leaving her face. "You always did, but now you look, I don't know, peaceful, content, like you found what you were looking for." "Did I find what I was looking for?" she asked, sitting in the chair beside his bed. "Or did it find me?" They talked for hours, carefully at first, then with growing ease. He told her about the business restructuring, the legal battles, the nights he'd lain awake wondering if he was doing the right thing or destroying everything his family had worked for. She told him about her company, the work that gave her purpose, the slow process of rebuilding her identity from the ground up. They didn't talk about the divorce, about the pain of separation, about the years they'd lost. There would be time for that later, if there was a later. For now, it was enough to be in the same room, breathing the same air, remembering why they'd fallen in love in the first place. When visiting hours ended, Zara stood to leave, but Min-jae caught her hand. "Will you come back tomorrow?" he asked, his voice vulnerable in a way that broke her heart. "I'm not going anywhere," she promised. "I'm staying in Seoul until we figure out what comes next." Relief flooded his features. "I don't deserve a second chance," he said quietly. "Neither of us deserves this," she replied. "But maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is whether we're brave enough to take it anyway." Zara extended her stay in Seoul indefinitely. She worked with clients remotely, handled business from her hotel room, restructured her entire life around hospital visits and treatment schedules. Minji's cancer was aggressive, but so was he. He endured chemotherapy with the same determination he'd once applied to business deals, treating each session like a battle to be won. Zara was there for all of it, holding his hand through the worst moments, celebrating small victories, being the strength he needed when his own failed him. They fell in love all over again, but differently this time. This love was quieter, deeper, built on truth instead of passion, on choice instead of inevitability. They knew each other now in ways they hadn't before, understood the price of love, and were willing to pay it. When Minji's hair fell out from the chemotherapy, Zara helped him shave his head and told him he looked distinguished. When the treatments made him too sick to eat, she brought him soup from his favorite restaurant and spoon-fed him like a child. When the pain was too much and he cried from frustration and fear, she held him and promised that he wasn't facing this alone. Not anymore. Never again. 6 months into his treatment, the doctors delivered news that changed everything. The cancer was responding, shrinking, retreating in the face of aggressive treatment and stubborn will. Min-jae would live. He would recover. He would have years, maybe decades, to build the life he wanted with the person he loved. The celebration was quiet, just the two of them in his hospital room, holding each other and crying with relief and gratitude. "We have time," Zara whispered against his neck. "We actually have time." "What do we do with it?" he asked, his arms tightening around her. "We do better," she said. "We love better. We choose each other every day, and we do the work, and we build something beautiful and honest and true. We get married again, properly this time. We have babies if we can, travel the world, grow old together. We do all the things we thought we'd lost the chance to do. And we never, ever take any of it for granted again." The second wedding was everything the first one wasn't. Small, intimate, held in a garden overlooking the Han River with only their closest family and friends in attendance. Zara's parents flew in from Chicago, tears of joy streaming down their faces as they watched their daughter marry the man who'd moved heaven and earth to be worthy of her love. Even Mrs. Kong was there, her disapproval replaced by grudging respect for the woman who'd walked away from everything and come back anyway. The woman who'd stood by her son through his darkest hours and helped him become the man he was meant to be. Park Jin-woo served as best man again, his smile genuine this time, no shadows of worry or fear. When Min-jae slipped the ring onto Zara's finger, his hands were steady, his voice strong. "I promise to choose you," he said, his eyes burning with love and determination. "In sickness and health, in wealth and poverty, in peace and chaos. I promise to be worthy of your love every single day. I promise to build a life with you that honors everything we've learned and everything we've survived." Zara's own vows were simple but profound. "I promise to stay," she said. "Through everything, no matter what comes, I promise to stay. To fight for us, to believe in us, to love you with everything I have. We're stronger now. We're better. And we're never letting go again. 3 years later, Zara stood in the nursery of their Seoul penthouse, watching Min-jae rock their 6-month-old daughter to sleep. Little Sarah, named for both of their mothers, had her father's dark hair and her mother's determined spirit. She was healthy, perfect, a miracle they'd thought might never happen given Minji's cancer treatment. But life had surprised them again, given them more than they'd dared to hope for. The room was painted in soft pastels, filled with toys and books and all the trappings of a well-loved child. Through the windows, Seoul sprawled beneath them, the city lights twinkling like stars. Min-jae caught her watching and smiled, the expression transforming his face with contentment. "What are you thinking about?" he asked softly, careful not to wake the baby. "How different this is from where we started," she replied, moving to sit beside him on the rocking chair. "How much we had to lose to find what really mattered." He leaned over to kiss her forehead, Sarah still sleeping peacefully in his arms. "Do you regret any of it? The pain, the separation, all those years we lost?" She considered the question seriously. "We didn't lose those years. We needed them. We needed to become who we are now. I love you more now than I did then. And that's saying something because I thought it was impossible to love someone more than I loved you then. But this love is better. It's chosen, tested, proven. It's love that survived the worst of us and came out stronger." As they sat there in the darkness, their daughter sleeping between them, Zara thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. The ballroom where they'd first met, the office where he'd offered her a job that changed everything, the island where they'd first kissed, the altar where they'd promised forever twice, the hospital room where they'd faced mortality together. Every step had been necessary. Every heartbreak had served a purpose. Every choice had led them here. To this room, this child, this quiet moment of perfect happiness. She said, "Rich men don't know how to please a woman," Min-jae said suddenly, his voice amused. "Do you remember? That's what started all this. You challenging me to try." Zara laughed softly. "And you proved me wrong in every way imaginable. Though not right away. No, not right away. We had to learn the hard way, didn't we? But we learned. And now look at us." Sarah stirred in her father's arms, making the small sounds babies make when they dream. "What do you think she's dreaming about?" Zara asked. "Better things than we did," Min-jae replied. "A world where love is simpler, where the right choice is always clear, where families like ours are built on solid ground from the very beginning. A world where little girls grow up knowing they can have everything, the career and the love and the family and the happiness, without having to sacrifice pieces of themselves along the way. That's what we're building for her, isn't it? A better world. One choice at a time. One day at a time. One generation at a time." Outside, Seoul hummed with late-night energy. Millions of people living their own love stories, facing their own challenges, making their own impossible choices. But in the nursery, time stood still. There was just the three of them. A family built from the ashes of mistakes and misunderstandings, stronger for having been broken and rebuilt. Love had been enough, in the end. Not easy love, not convenient love, not love that demanded no sacrifices. But real love, tested love, love that chose to stay when staying was hard, and to come back when coming back was harder. Love that whispered, "Try me," when the world said impossible. Love that answered every time. If this story touched your soul and made you believe in real love again, remember that sometimes the best things in life are worth fighting for, worth leaving for, and worth coming back to when you're both ready to do the work. Sometimes love isn't enough the first time, but if it's real love, it will wait. It will grow. It will become everything you need it to be in time. Thank you for taking this journey with Zara and Min-jae. May you find a love that challenges you to become your best self and then loves that person unconditionally.